What's going on, workforce? Brian here for Work to Game. I hope you're doing well. I sure am. So let's talk. So already there is just a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. From Stormblood, from Blitzball coming to Stormblood, from is there a potential new job that could come in the patch series, to basically Gamerscape compiled an interview from a press kind of conference style briefing yesterday at the European FanFest. And then this morning we've got the letter from the producer live, which covered questions from pretty much people from FanFest as well as the forums. And then you had them talking about patch 3.55A, 3.55B, and then just briefly kind of mentioning 3.56, as well as there's apparently a lot of patches that are going to be coming between the between the patches that we're going to be getting, and then the and 4.0 in June. So there's just a lot to talk about. I've got my notes. I've got a little bit from the interview for Gamerscape, and so let's just go ahead and jump into this. So first things first, from the interview from Gamerscape, I'm going to include the full interview link below. I'm only grabbing a few highlights, but if you're interested in conversation regarding VR, as well as a number of other little interesting topics, I recommend you go and read that article. But I'm just going to pick on a couple of things that I personally found interesting. So the question is, because we're only getting 2 jobs, is there an opportunity for us to see a job come within the 4.x series of patches, much like they did with Ninja? And Yoshi P says the first priority is the revamping of the battle system, then the balancing of the jobs, probably, all jobs, and then they'll look into it. Just the fact that he didn't say a hard, fast no is concerning because he's stated this before. So in my opinion, and based off what he said, is it's a lot of work. There's a lot of balancing issues. I personally feel, this is just my opinion, that this answer more or less just means, no, you're going to get an expansion, but I don't want to just give you a hard, fast no. However, I would be completely surprised and blown away if they did something like this. Honestly, I think for me, I'm okay with waiting for the various expansion cycles for new jobs and the bigger changes. I think it affords them a lot of freedom to make those changes at that time. But I'm interested in what you think. Would you like a new job with the patch, just like we got with Ninja? Let me know in the comments below. So part of this press conference, and then again in the article from Gamerscape, DualShockers actually asks kind of a 2-part question. A, is there a PS4 Pro patch coming? Which Yoshi P responds, and he also did in the live letter saying yes, and it's really close. They're not going to be focusing in on something like 4K, but they want to improve frame rate and the number of objects that can be drawn on the screen, while at the same time they do not want to drop PS 4 non-pro systems at all. So it's not like you're going to be at a horrible disadvantage, but they're just looking at improving overall system performance. He's played an early build. It's coming along. Second part of this was that, is there a build coming to the Switch? Which I personally just was like, I just don't see that happening. He doesn't give a hard, fast no. He says pretty much his standard answer, just like with Xbox. Like, if they can play cross-world with everybody, then yes, then let's go ahead and do, they want to look into it. They want to bring it to as many systems as possible. We know we've got more information on the Switch. We've talked about the Switch on this channel. I don't see it having that kind of power that they're now looking for with the increased, PC specs and the dropping of PS3. Not that the Switch is more powerful than a PS3, but do we want to just introduce this to maybe in 2 years to have it gone? I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts. Is this a game that you want to play on the Switch? I think the internal memory issue of the Switch alone kind of prohibits this from happening. But all in all, I'm happy that people are asking the question. So regarding Blitzball, they talk about like, hey, are there any plans for Blitzball? And Yoshi P says yes. But the challenge is that they've got to kind of try to balance what people expect or remember from Final Fantasy X and how to make that work in an MMO. And then if they make it work specifically just for an MMO, does that break the balance of the people who are expecting something like from Final Fantasy X? So they're working towards it. So this answer means that I don't think we're going to see it with 4.0. Would be completely surprised otherwise. But it is interesting. I know Andrew has talked about this pretty much, I think, since back June. With the reveal, especially with kind of the water theme and the 10 theme, like, hey, we're going to get Blitzball. it's really cool that they're looking into that. I'm curious as to how you would like it to work. Myself, I'm like, well, yeah, I want to be able to play with friends and either against NPCs or against other players. So it could be a somewhat form of a PvP, style match. But all in all, I haven't put a lot of detailed thoughts into it. So if you guys have any thoughts about Blitzball and what you want to see, about it, let me know in the comments below. So also they talk about two other things, kind of the battle system revamp for Stormblood, and Yoshi P stated that he didn't want to rebuild it from the ground up, and that the two key principles on kind of looking at actions, and especially those that aren't being used in the cross roll, are coming, as well as the job specific UI. Now we don't have any really more details, and I know that my interest in it's going to only increase over time. But that being said, it doesn't seem to be like that messaging is changing. We're probably not going to see something about this until around May, namely due to the fact that they're probably going to be balancing it up to that point. Then they also talk about the companion app. So there's a smartphone app that and they talked about it last year, that they would probably have it around 4.0, and they're making progress, but he doesn't yet know if it's going to be ready with the launch of 4.0 or sometime after. But just something I thought I'd share and bring it up to you guys to let you know. So now we're going to get into the live letter and what pretty much was covered. I'm not going to be talking about everything. I'm skipping over a lot of the glamour questions. Can we glamour this? Can we have this hairstyle, that? And, I'm sympathetic. I'm really glad that, people want this and they're enjoying it. And, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to talk about kind of what I feel is the meat and potatoes of what we learn if we're learning any new information. If you're interested, obviously they should have the full thing, archived or live streamed or something, so you can go in and watch the full thing. But just the highlights, things that really kind of stand out to me that aren't really related to glamour. But they're talking about housing and gardening. And what's really interesting about this is that with the expanse that is coming with 4.0 with houses, the question is asked is, are we going to see a similar thing with gardening? And they are still looking into that. Their priority is, one, they're going to increase the inside space of the house. Two, they're going to finish the free company move feature to go to, if you want to easily relocate your free company house. And then three, they're going to look into gardening and what can be done with it. The challenge with gardening is that it's outside and it's got to be drawn, and that can then stress to machines and raise specs, and there's all kinds of things and factors that they have to take into account. But all in all, I think this is interesting, especially I have a garden, I have a small house, so it would be great if I could have more gardening spots, right? So another interesting question that was asked was the ability to repeat main story or job specific quests, especially fights. The quest in and of itself, I don't think was the important part, but the fight in and of itself, where they would like to re-challenge a fight at any point, that was kind of what was asked. And Yoshi P jokingly said, well, the best and easiest way is just to go ahead and make a new character. But then he was like, I'm thinking about it, and instead of having to redesign the quest system, which he was originally thinking that would be the only way to go about it, he said, well, maybe we could do a list of those fights, and then you can choose to access them. There are no real active plans, so this is not going to happen anytime soon. And so he said, if you cannot wait, the only real answer for that is to make a new character. So there you have it. So then the question was asked, 2.0 seemed more difficult than 3.0, especially related to the extreme primals. And they were asking if 4.0 is going to be, return to that more difficult phase. And so Yoshi P kind of summed up that it's always back and forth. Something's too easy, something's too hard, something's too easy, something's too hard. And he jokingly said that he just doesn't trust anybody anymore. But what they did infer is that talking about the new 4.0 raid, the Bend of Time, and they wanted to go and do something very interesting and say, and so the idea on the development floor is this, that if you're able to clear the Savage content, a special type of content would open up for you that's really, really difficult. And Yoshi P said that if we do this, that you cannot complain that it's too difficult for that, whatever that third tier or whatever that new feature unlock is. Personally, I would think it'd be interesting if that, they make the content and allow for you to increase its difficulty naturally by setting any number of stars or something like that. Something simple of oh, this is Savage 1 star, Savage 5 star, or something of that nature. But who knows? We'll see. But the idea is that they're listening, and that yeah, it's a balance. He's like, we're always taking that into account. we do want to make sure that, the majority of the player base can clear the content we make. We don't want to make, a big piece of content that's only for 0.001% of the community, but they don't also want to not even think about that small percentage of the community. So it's something that's always a give and take, always a balance. And I personally like the idea that if you were able to clear the hardest content in the game, that something special would open up for you, and who knows what that will be. So I'm looking forward to that. So whether you've run Hildebrand in 3.0 or not, I'm more on I'm only halfway through. I just have not been interested in it for 3.0. I really enjoyed it in 2.0. There were trials. There was a lot of interesting things that really kind of had me want to take part in that. Originally with 3.0, they were planning on giving Hildebrand a break. They were going to not have him. And that's where I think, we even talked about it on the Gamerscape, podcast, Aetheryte Radio. Our response to wanting more Hildebrand surprised them. And so from a development cost, they were like, well, this is something we want to work on. It's going to take some time because we had no plans. So we've now got to make plans. So that was fascinating. And so that's why we really didn't see a lot of trials. That being said, is that we're wondering, are there going to be trials in 4.0? Or are we going to see more Hildebrand in 4.0? And he said that, it's a possibility. So he didn't give any hard set facts. I don't want to sit here and spoil anything for anybody who hasn't, finished the story for Hildebrand. All in all, I think that we probably will see it, and they are taking that into account. And they even said they were even thinking with 4.0 to give Hildebrand a break, but people are, still responding well to the character. So here's where a real, I think, hard-hitting question was asked, and this is exciting. So regarding official DPS meters, they were asking, can maybe we get just a DPS meter for ourselves? We don't want to see anybody else's. We just want to see ourselves. And he says that he's still worried that this would cause infighting with the community and it necessarily be difficult where people are like, hey, send me a screenshot of your DPS because, they're thinking that you're not doing your job or not. Now, he says that kind of from a priority perspective that the gap in the player's skill became so much greater with Heavensward than it was with A Realm Reborn. With the battle system revamp, they want to hopefully reduce that gap between just a normal player and a really high end player. And then with those changes, that it is not out of the realm of possibility that we might see an individual DPS meter. Personally, I would rather more or less hope for scores at the end of PvE content than anything that's actively tracking you to kind of draw your focus towards, as opposed to the fight and the mechanics. At least something at the end of the fight. But they did kind of talk about, in a way, it was weird. I can't really talk about this. We're trying something out that's never been done in an MMO before, where we might be able to play a particular fight or a part of a fight and then repeat it and see if we can do better and repeat, some kind of I guess trial-esque system for ranking. I don't know. So again, it wasn't clear. It was hinted at. It was interesting. Please look forward to it, I guess. So they talked about a potential new mount, and it was in the form of a player asking if we could get umbrellas, and this is actually something they considered, and they're looking into what's the best way. And in the case of how to best implement it, they thought that, well, why not make it a mount, and you could Mary Poppins-esque fly into the sky with it, as well as just utilize it for hovering over your head. So all in all, I thought that was pretty fascinating and interesting. It did seem like it was talked about as it's going to be a part of the MOG station, so that might mean you'll need to purchase it. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I was like, oh, I don't need it. But it was interesting to see, and at least the thought behind it. And so the last question that was pretty much asked was regarding the Palace of the Dead and sending tales across world. So we've got the cross-world party finder. So they talked about Palace of the Dead. They're working on it so that it can be something that can be accessed via the cross-world party finder system. But they're also working on a couple other things. Cross-world alliance finder system, so that way you can we can build out our own alliance raids with everybody on the data center. And they talked about tells, friends list, link shells, free companies, all of these things that they're thinking and working towards with cross-world. So it seems, and I've said this before, it seems like as we keep moving forward, that the lines between the worlds are becoming thinner and thinner with the passing time. So all in all, I think this is really interesting and exciting. So I'm interested in your thoughts as well. Personally, I like the idea. I like the cross-world party finder. But playing with some of you guys, if we're all in the data center, it'd be cool to be able to communicate even more effectively in game than we do already. So all in all, I think this is a big plus. So then they get into kind of patch 3.55 and A, and then they talk about, well, why are we calling it A? And basically we learned that there's going to be a 3.55B. The big news is the diadem, there was a bug, and it's being delayed to 3.55B, which they believe could be anywhere from 7, 10 to 14 days after 3.55A, which is right now is on the books for February 28th. So we're not much further away from these updates. We're getting the new feast map, prelims for season 4 starting because of the new map, allowing people to practice. A couple other adjustments and new items coming to like PvP. Zoli Apollo is coming for the crafting and gathering, which we've seen 3.5 letters in the past. So this is all interesting and exciting stuff. And so they kind of just highlighted those on the screen. The diadem being delayed, YoshiP apologizes. You know, they were trying to get that fixed, but it just it wouldn't happen. And then they talked about there's a special raid that's in the diadem, which is interesting and fascinating. So they've got a lot of work. And again, they talked about how there's going to be a lot of patches, especially between now and 4.0. So 3.56 is the continuation of the story for kind of concluding Heaven's Word, taking us into Stormblood. So that's, you know, still, you know, sometime either in March or later. So we'll see with that. And so the last real bits about 3.55A are that we're going to get the final Animo questline weapon. So this should be taking your weapon up to 275, and it should be pretty easy. And we're also getting the Proto Ultima fight, which if you've been to the FanFest have gotten to experience. But it's interesting, they're not telling us how we're going to get to it or unlock it. It's not going to be in the patch notes, is what they were saying on the stage. But it's apparently going to drop 270 accessories, which I think that sounds really, really exciting and awesome. So all in all, you know, if you don't know what Proto Ultima is, at least from the FanFest perspective, it was an alliance raid. So instead of an 8-man raid, it's a 24-man raid. So hopefully this means that we're going to start to see more and more content, especially alliance content, brought into the game. But I'm interested in your thoughts. I've played it. I loved it. I don't know if it was balanced easier or you know, for a FanFest, but we didn't find it all that difficult. It was very exciting visually. So I'm wondering if much like Odin was balanced differently for FanFest, and then in the game, if that's going to be the case here, if it's going to be something on the line of that extreme difficulty. But we'll have to wait and see. Not too much longer though. And then to conclude the live letter, apparently Square Enix has won several Guinness Book of World Records awards. 1 for the most endgame credits thanks to legacy players, 2 for the most original music in a video game, and then 3 for Final Fantasy being the penultimate RPG according to the Guinness Book of World Records. So this was really interesting and exciting to see those awards given out and taking the time to have that done. But I'm interested in your thoughts. Did you guys get to watch the live letter? What are you most excited about? Let's have that conversation. There's just so much to talk about. Blitzball, we've got battle system changes, we got the expanding map, and with Stormblood, this is just an awesome time to be a fan. In fact, I just posted a video this morning just about some initial thoughts I have about the world map. So there's going to be lots to talk about, and I'm interested in your thoughts as well. So anyway, for Work to Game, my name's Brian. I hope to see you in my next video, but until then, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care. Hey, it's me. Thanks so much for watching this video. You should click here to subscribe and here to maybe check out some more of our videos. So again, thanks for watching. We hope you like this video. We hope you subscribe and join our community. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you next time. Bye.